you and I watched the Hornets Pacers game, and I really do want to talk about the Hornets in this segment, but the reason that I like bringing up that game makes sense here is that I felt like it said more about the Pacers than it did about the Hornets, to be completely honest.
I know,
The
I was
Hornets
thinking
were
that too.
without the Hornets were without Lamelo. Brandon Miller was, kind of the best guy on the floor that they had there. But in terms of play, like they were really being carried by Micic. Like it was a Micic game. He had quite a flurry for himself in that middle stretch of the game, both with his scoring and with his passing. He was a pretty good decision maker in this game, which is not always the case. But, something that you want out of your point guard, even if it's your backup point guard. The Pacers got, record production from TJ McConnell in this game, where he had 30 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, shot 60% from the field, off the bench. And the last person to do that was Magic Johnson. And they lost that game. So, Will, can you tell me why did the Pacers lose that game?
Well, they lost because their defense is trash, true
Yeah.
trash. But McConnell was like the only bright spot, definitely on offense, and even like defense with some trail. Like I think he got a steal or a block or something occasionally. Yeah. He was just TJ McConnell on offense was just able to attack a lot. Like, and he was left open for three. With the Hornets are still. I mean, look, they're improving. They're not there yet, so they're gonna have miscommunications and leaving players open. But like he was in the corner a lot, and Nick Richards is closing out on him, and he's just attacking and getting around him pretty easily, and either assisting or shooting, and with some tough little turnarounds and such that TJ McConnell can do. That was pretty much their biggest source of offense, obviously. But yeah, like when I was watching the game, just to like get a little example of where the Hornets are against another team that's disappointing right now with the Pacers, though they have enough talent to do something.
I would put the Pacers in that like upper tier of teams, if not like quite as high as the other three, but like they were neck and neck with the Magic for most of last season, for example. They made the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, so it's like, let's see how this shakes out. The Hornets don't have LaMelo. They lost 8 straight. But the Pacers are a weird team. So like when I was taking notes, I like typing out the Hornets on offense, but I couldn't separate it from the Pacers defense because that explained a lot of what the Hornets were able to do.
I mean, was it Isaiah Wong? Like he had himself quite the game. There were a lot of like weak doubles that were split by Micic, by Wong, by Brandon Miller.
And destroyed Siakam.
Yeah, then Brandon Miller gets a game-sealing dunk in like the last 30 seconds of that game.
What the hell was Tyrese Halliburton doing on screens? I guess it's what they were told to do, but like, damn.
So much, and every team takes advantage of it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we can't switch Halliburton onto anybody, like anybody at all.
But man,
it's so easy to take advantage of.
And if they get Siakam or like Turner out on the perimeter at all, and they're doing shit like that, like they're not fast enough. Like I just thought they were slow.
Siakam and Turner in particular. Yeah, I thought Biles was really bad in this game defensively.
Yeah, me too.
I like gave him I cut him a lot of slack last year for the defense because there were so many problems with the Pacers on the perimeter. But like this year, it feels like he's just like given up on help defense, and it's odd because he's in a contract year. He's about to be an unrestricted free agent this summer. And I don't know if he's going to stay with Indiana. He might be one of the best players to enter free agency this summer if the Pacers don't work out a deal with him. And who knows if that's what they want to do, especially with the way that this season is going for the team right now. But he fits so much of what they like to do offensively.
Yeah.
I had some, you talk about the Pacers defense, but their defense was bad last year too. They were 24th last year. They're 24th this year. The difference is the offense. They're actually they're not a top 10 offense right now. They're sitting at 14th, which you can't do if you're 24th in defense, right?
Yeah.
They were second offensively last year. They were first for large stretches of it. And you can talk about like, Hallie's injury might have like made them worse. And like, he's also been bad this year and it's probably like the same, right? Post All-Star break last year, this is like well after Hallie's hamstring injury, they were still second in offense. So it's not like the Siakam fit that you can even point to That's like why their offense looks like this.
I thought in that game they could have gone to Siakam more in the post. Too many times he was up on the elbow and like taking shots or just being weird. And it's like just give it to him and let him like do something down there. But they just weren't.
I thought that the Hornets did a good job of like swarming the bigs off the
Oh, they
catch.
did, yeah. They
And
did.
Siakam always settles for that jumper when you give him a little bit of space. So they were kind of like fake giving him space and would like fake contest.
Yeah,
so that
that's
might
smart.
have been why they stopped going to him in the post.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't like getting like closer to the basket and like getting a higher percentage shot or anything like that. It was like taking the bad jumper.
He was.
You talk about like Siakam maybe helping them in like a slowed down, environment, being able to post up like that. The Pacers are 5th in half court offense.
Wow.
But they're 14th. So what's going on in transition? Well, they are 27th in transition offense this year. So their pace isn't actually that much worse either. They were 2nd in pace last year. They're 6th this year, so not quite as fast relative to the league, but like they're still up there. It's still clearly an emphasis. But they're 27th in transition efficiency after being 2nd last year. It's like, what's going on when they run a break?
Why are they so bad in transition? Who's not finishing at the rim? Who's responsible?
Oh, yes, please. Tell me.
Miles Turner, Mathurin.
Their rim efficiency is actually the same as last year in terms of like ranking. They're 7th, and they were 7th last year also.
Yeah. They did turn it over sometimes in those transitions. Like they would start to dribble and Siakam would lose it midcourt they had a lot of bad turnovers.
So that's a big one. That's a good one to look at, Will, because they were 5th in turnover rate. That's like they prevented turnovers at the 5th or didn't turn the ball over at the 5th best, I guess. This year they're 14th.
Yeah. They did look kind of out of control in that game, like with turnovers or just sloppy with the ball.
Actually, 16th. My bad.
I could see it really affecting that.
That sounds like us in transition last year.
Yeah.
Like I was like, please just slow down and do a half court offensive possession, because it felt like the Nuggets were losing points in transition last year because they were either missing shots or turning the ball over, which was like, what's going on here? The Pacers let the Hornets get away with Taj Gibson minutes in this game. Like,
yeah, I know.
That was really I just can't get away from that takeaway from this game, was that the Pacers just looked deeply unserious. Like maybe worse than, like, everyone talked about, like, oh my God, the Hawks had that like fraudulent Eastern Conference Finals run, and then they were just like this mid team thereafter. The Pacers look worse than that.
Yeah.
In the same situation as of right now. So I'm really curious about what they're going to be thinking in terms of trying to turn the ship around on this season. Because like they do have, it's not like a title window necessarily, but they have a window. They just signed Siakam to a 4-year max extension, and they don't want to just waste these years like on developing. Like we talked about their need for a consolidation trade with all of the young like wings and guards that they have in particular. I think Aaron Neesman's been out with injury recently, and that was something that was clearly missing for them in this game. I think just like his energy, even in the games that they had him, like they haven't really been performing anywhere near the level that they were last season, particularly on the offensive end.
I think Siakam's like at where he might need to be if he was like the second fiddle.
Right. But I agree with that. Like he shouldn't have to be the best player on your team. And he has been the best player on the team for the Pacers this year. And that's not good.
They have so much potential in McConnell and stuff. They just like, I don't know what has to happen with Halliburton. It's kind of like reminds me of Jamal. It's like, you got to start playing like we know you can, and otherwise you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. It's so funny because we were having the Hallie Jamal convo before the season started, and I've seen people have it like even after the season started. I'm like, guys, have you seen how Halliburton's playing? It's worse.
I know. That's
Though,
a weird
who knows
one.
what that would look like next to Jokic, but the defense would be like an even bigger problem.
Yeah, that was brutal. He did have like one good block on a little man rotation, but otherwise pretty brutal.
Yeah. But yeah, like in terms of the Hornets, like because Lamelo didn't really play in that game, I don't really understand this team. I thought that they were going to be better than they are this year. I feel like they're playing better defense. They seem a bit more connected, especially in this game, right? They were playing a lot of ball pressure to the Pacers. They were forcing a lot of turnovers in this game. Right now, the Hornets rank 21st, which is not bad. I think Charles Lee has done a good job with them on that end of the floor. There was even the sequence when Brandon Miller, like, kind of late contests a Benedict Mathurin three. He immediately calls timeout, and then he starts like reaming out Brandon Miller like on the
Oh
floor.
yeah.
He was clearly like directing him, and Brandon was like listening, but he was like clearly yelling. It's
Yeah.
because you could see Charles Lee's face, but you couldn't see Brandon Miller's face. But you could see his posture. He's like, okay, all right, coach. And he's like trying to like take it in. So that wasn't
Hmm.
what I took from it. But that's how you get from 29th in defense to 21st, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially as a team that doesn't have like super great defensive personnel, especially on the perimeter, right? They played small for most of this game, and the Pacers let them get away with it. That's one of the things. We were
Yeah.
talking about like, why didn't Siakam post up more and like all of this? They tried a little bit at the beginning and had some success, but then the Hornets kind of flipped their strategy with like swarming and like late contests in the mid range, and they just know Siakam likes to go to that shot. But they were playing lineups where like, I don't know, it was like Micic at the 5 or something late in this game.
And I didn't even really love Nick Richards on defense. I thought
Yeah.
he was not communicating well on
Mm.
switches and coverages, but like just simply playing a drop on Halliburton was working because he was
Yeah,
just
because
like
he can't make anything.
he was just pulling up and missing them, and that was all they really needed to do. Halliburton hit the tough shots like that he was doing like an
Those
ISO or
contested
like very
floaters and
yeah, but his wide open shit he just missed. And the game started with Miles Turner just missing everything, and the Hornets got up 9-0 very quick. And Miles Turner literally missed everything inside and only hit his threes that game. It felt like it was so weird. But I thought Brandon Miller was pretty good from just that game. I liked
yeah.
what I saw. Like there's some
He's so
potential.
fluid on offense too.
Yeah,
You're just like, oh, I totally see the vision. And then you kind of juxtapose it to the Blazers with Scoot Henderson. And you're like, okay, I understand why the Hornets did what they did.
definitely. Yeah, that was a good move. There's been like critiques that even though LaMelo is like popping this year, he's like I looked at the
Still got
3-point.
the same bad decision making.
Yeah, and the 3-point volume with him and Brandon Miller is crazy, actually. Like, how many are they averaging?
In
Yeah,
terms of attempts.
LaMelo's at 13 attempts a game and Brandon Miller's at
Oh.
11 attempts a game. And it's just like,
See, I feel like LaMelo taking 13 is like whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with because you're stretching the defense so thin, even if you're only making 35% of them because they're afraid of the like when you get hot, right?
mhm. Yeah, it's working.
I don't know why Brandon Miller's taking 11. To be completely honest, they have other shooters on that team, and I kind of want to see him like attack more on the interior. Like he's
Yeah, he's
got
pretty
those
good at it.
tools. But
I've-
he's also a good shooter, and that's part of why they drafted him was because he's a good shooter.
Yeah. And I thought that the Hornets were pretty good at that game at just like getting paint touches and like, even though it's awkward sometimes because you have like Micic just like driving and he'd sometimes lose it, sometimes get blocked or he would score. And like, Wong is driving in or other players are just driving in and trying to kick out for three. And when they like actually move the ball around the perimeter, they can be pretty good. It's just sometimes I feel like they just kind of get like tunnel vision, whether it's LaMelo or Brandon Miller or Micic or whoever, we're just like isolating and they could have just passed it or something like that. And so, you got to play unselfish on offense. And I think that they can get there.
Yeah, another standout from this game was Cody Martin.
Yeah.
He looked like prime Caleb Martin out there
There you
in
go.
this game. Just all the hustle plays, saved a lot of balls from going like out of bounds and some tough rebounds, some pretty good perimeter defense. I was kind of like, hey, could we get Cody Martin up in Denver so that somebody can defend at the point of attack? That'd be great. In terms of like the trajectory of the Hornets, that's just tougher to say. I feel like of the teams that we talked about, I'm most excited in terms of like a player about Brandon Miller of any singular like player on the tanking teams that we've talked about. But the Hornets just like still aren't quite there as like a roster and an overall like system yet, even though Charles Lee is starting to make some strides. So it kind of reminds me of like, or makes me think of what the Rockets would have looked like if they just brought in Ime and didn't change the roster.
Because you're not getting enough like production with this roster to really
production
like
and like
significantly
seriousness, like consistent seriousness from those guys. Well, that about wraps it up for this show. Well, that was actually a fun little discussion about some young teams At
You
least
know,
somebody's having fun this season.
gotta venture off and talk about. Could be worse. You know, you could be one of these
Yes,
teams,
it's true. Could
but
be one of these
they
teams.
might be on the rise though, and we're kind of like not on the
Ugh.
rise.
Empires fall.
But when you're on the top, where else do you got to go? You know?
Well, if you have watched to this point, thank you so much. You probably are subscribed if you have watched to this point. But if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. And if you like our content, please remember to hit the like bell. Please share our show. We're trying to grow the channel. We're excited for, the holiday slate is going to be interesting in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to be talking about the NBA Cup next week. So we'll have some more interesting games to discuss. And who knows? The Nuggets might surprise us in the next few weeks and start to turn things around. And if they're not, come here for the rants because they will be here. Trust me. Please hit the notification bell and leave us a review. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at What's in a Game NBA. We also have links for all those socials in the description. We also have our clip channel at What's in a Game NBA Clips. And always remember that winning is fun and losing sucks. It really sucks.